Morning, Jim. Thanks for spending some time here on second day of the cable show up in Boston. It's been an exciting day, been an exciting time for the industry. A lot of exciting things going on. What are some of the key things that you guys are seeing at ITAS?
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned it earlier. It seems like it's been a little foggy in terms of the different directions that are out there. But despite the fog, we're seeing a lot of interest in people outsourcing development, outsourcing testing, and then in terms of platforms, a lot of interest in things like HTML5 and the Comcast RDK, and those are things that we have been participating in here.
So as far as testing, generally across the technology landscape, the key is always how to get it done faster, how to get it done more efficiently. And I know that's something that ITAS has been focused on.
Absolutely, and that is absolutely, speed to market seems to be even more important now than it was a couple of years ago. It's also gotten more difficult because speed to market is tied to how fast you can get it tested, and testing is tied to how many different platforms you're doing things on. And what we're seeing now with the operators is where it used to be just test on these set-top types, which was enough. Now you're testing on set-top types, mobile devices, tablets, and PCs. So all that testing requires sometimes dedicated teams of people that we put in place with a certain environment that help do the 80-20 rule. We test it to 80% and get it ready, and then the customer's labs are able to do it much more quickly.
So what does that last 20% then entail?
A lot of that has to do with specific infrastructure requirements for the customer. They'll have connection to either proprietary systems or billing system interfaces that are just hard to duplicate in a lab environment, especially a remote lab environment. And what we do is end up with all the basic testing that is pretty easy to find and easier to fix, and then it gets to a certain point in where the customer's infrastructure is just required to make sure you get to that last 100%.
So you mentioned the need to have to develop for and potentially test for then also all the different multiple operating systems and devices that are out there. Obviously one of the ways to at least partially get around that is to start leveraging HTML5.
Absolutely, and HTML5 is still in the incubator itself. It's not completely potted and done, but we are doing a lot of work with HTML5, doing a lot of work with trying out the product itself on different different platforms with different capabilities, different OSs, and we have some examples of things that we've done that are just more or less prototypes, but that ubiquity of that platform will be undoubtedly the defining standard for the future in terms of multi-platform approach.
So as far as having some prototypes out there, ITAS isn't necessarily a company known for putting products and applications out there.
That's correct. We are a custom developer. We basically let customers come to us with their ideas, we implement them, and then they own the IP for most of the time. There are a few exceptions to that, but almost always we're taking a customer's idea and letting them define the specifications and the roadmap. One of the things we hear often is we want to own this because we want to control the roadmap. If we buy a product solution, then we're at the mercy of whoever owns that product.
What can you show me about what you've done?
Okay, well, let's start looking at a prototype here. One that's really kind of cool, which we did in HTML5, we were looking at the problem or the issue. By the way, this menu we built in HTML5 too, but one of the issues that we see is in VOD consumption for the operators. So what we did was we built an HTML5 frame that actually looks like a movie theater. And what this would be specifically for is targeted to the younger audiences that are more game oriented. So you take your never had cables, your college kids, your high school kids that are going into college, and we build a VOD interface that looks like you're walking down a movie theater. But if you turn and look at the movie, like the posters hanging on the wall, and I click on my remote, I can actually go into a theater environment and see a preview of a movie. And we did all this with an HTML5 framework. But it's just a concept to show that we're looking forward at how do I do things that are appealing to a whole new generation of consumers that think of the game platform as the platform of choice.
Now that can obviously then be extended to the full viewing experience, purchase experience as well.
Absolutely. If you take that idea and say that movie theater or gaming platform, I could use that for all kind of programming, I could use it for any kind of sampling. But the initial idea was, hey, let's just get with this HTML5 platform, see what we can do, stretch it as much as we can.
So I want to touch on one more thing for folks out there with brand new Samsung smart TVs hanging on their walls. I know you mentioned to me you built a pretty cool app for that.
Yeah, we did. We built an app called Party Shots, and it's actually on Samsung TVs now. It's an app that if you're having a party at your house or like a wedding shower or an event, it actually allows you to put the app on your television, and then everybody that comes to the party can synchronize their cell phones, their smartphones, with a QR code on the TV, and then you have an instant live slideshow from everybody's phone sent to the TV so you can enjoy it during the party, and then it also will save it to the web on something like Flickr, and you can share it with people afterwards.
Gives whole new meaning to the term smile, you're on candid camera.
That's right.
Jim, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.